So, in light of Yu-Gi-Oh! Nostalgia Month, will there be a Hearthstone Nostalgia Month? Probably not for a very, very long time. It takes time to get nostalgic. There are definitely Hearthstone formats, individual seasons that I really enjoyed, but to say that I'm nostalgic for it is quite a stretch. I do like Whispers of the Old Gods. It's my favorite set, just on a thematic level. On a mechanical level, I'm not so sure. That being said, it might be 5 or 10 years for Hearthstone to become nostalgic. That being said, Magic has been around for quite a long time. Could there be a Magic Nostalgia Month? That's probably a better question, but one that's a little bit difficult when I have to answer it. For anyone that's played the game for an extended period of time, most definitely. But I'm not in that camp. I started Magic as an adult, and my actual interaction with the game is a little bit limited. I do like the sets, I do like the art, I do like the gameplay. I've been working on understanding the history, the lore, the mechanics, so many mechanics. One of the failed video ideas is to take every single evergreen keyword and organize them based on the design space that they occupy. And I finished most of it, but after posting it online, I was terribly discouraged because there is just so much complexity, and if you don't already know, the Magic community really, really enjoys nitpicking all the tiny little flaws. They will go through every single keyword and look for it. And Dredge, I'll have you know, is an alternate casting cost, but it's also card recursion. And that just boggles my mind because I've played situations where the Dredge opponent never has a mana base. So I never think that you can play the Dredge cards for their original mana cost and then use the Dredge cost later. It's just mind-boggling. But that's okay. Dredge is not something normal people are nostalgic for the record. It's more so the bygone era of Magic. I do think that there is a general trend in lots of different games where people are nostalgic for slow, meaningful decision-based gameplay, and that's something that is add-ins with power creep. In Magic, you get better creatures and worse spells as the game progresses. In Yu-Gi-Oh, you get better creatures and worse spells as the game progresses. That's interesting, because you see the same phenomenon over and over again, where you used to have the power cards, you have your power 9, and there wasn't a single creature among them. Of course, most of the power 9 was mana acceleration, so that's probably not the best idea, not the best point of comparison. And of course, you did have a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh! Power cards, and there were powerful monsters in the early days of Yu-Gi-Oh! What with Fiber Jar and Morphing Jar and Cyber Jar, all the Jar cards. Jar cards are definitely a video idea, maybe for a nostalgia month. But on the topic of Magic nostalgia, I didn't interact with the game. I don't have memories of opening Ice Age. I don't have the times that I got my first pack of Darksteel or playing in Kamigawa block. I don't have Scars of Mirrodin. I don't have those formats that I dreaded playing. I don't have either the positive or the negative attachment to the game. And it's purely retrospective in the sense that it's historical. I do have, since Shadow of Innistrad, view of the game. And Shadows of Innistrad is pretty cool. I do like the Eldrazi. The Eldrazi are a little bit too similar to the Eldritch and border on line with incorporeal horrors from another world. I am very excited by getting a video to talk about them, but it's not really nostalgic. It is one of those things that you only walk into much later in life. Having read Lovecraft and the Shadows of Innistrad block, the Whispers of the Old Gods and the elder entities in Yu-Gi-Oh! All coexisting. It's really interesting, but it's not necessarily nostalgic. I think there's that difference in opinion, where nostalgia affects people based on their formative years or those momentous occasions which are punctuated by particular interest. And there isn't that spark in Magic. Not in War of the Spark either. It's just that lack of allure. Because in Yu-Gi-Oh! I can distinctly remember what cards I first interacted with. I can remember, well, that Mirage Knight I already mentioned. But outside of that, I can remember the first card I ever saw was Skull Servant, Metamorphosis, into Thousand Eyes Restrict, which was a crazy good combo back then. I can remember opening my first pack, getting my first ultra rare. It was Black Tyranno. I can remember all of these things, and it's weird because I have persistent memories like that in Hearthstone too. My first rare card in Hearthstone was Argent Commander, and it's still good, and I still fit it into decks because you have Corpse Taker, and that's just your Divine Shield plus Charge. Charge is a keyword. Doesn't really go away. Charge, Divine Shield, pretty strong. 6 mana play. It fits well into even decks too, especially with the Corpse Taker. But that's not the point. I still remember my first golden rare, or my first golden card in Hearthstone. It happened to be a rare. It was Crazed Alchemist. Again, card that every so often crops up. Whenever there's a turn 2 Doomsayer, you can counter it with tempo by playing Crazed Alchemist. It's really good. Got to get rid of all those totems. Oppressive Shaman, Crazed Alchemist is to the rescue. It doesn't happen too much. I know you could really high roll, get rid of a Validated Doomsayer or a Summoning Stone and Wild. But it's good. It's good. It's one of those things that's not so obvious. It really opens up the design space. But that's an example of the Hearthstone-based nostalgia. I guess it could be opening Magic product and be looking at it, but it's not really the same because I understand how Magic functions on a fundamental level. Granted, because of experience with Hearthstone, but it's different. I don't see the potential and the excitement when I get a new Magic card. It's, oh, this set is mostly vampires, so I drew another vampire, which means it goes in the vampire deck. I guess part of the problem is the design space that Magic occupies, and this is another shift that's happened in both Yu-Gi-Oh! And Magic, is there is so much tribal support and so much focus on archetypes in Yu-Gi-Oh! And of course there's parasitic mechanics, but Yu-Gi-Oh! Takes it to an extreme, where we have Madolches, which only play well with Madolches, or we have Geargia, which only really play well with Geargia. Of course, you have the overlap and you have color identity in Magic, but most of the sets feel like there's 3 or 4 decks, usually pretty color locked and pretty specific. Oh, you like Merfolk? Okay, well, here's Merfolk. Of course, there's always going to be decks that can exist, like Red Rush is probably always going to exist in Standard, although they're trying really, really hard to print bad red cards in the Mythic slot to deter people from going into Red Rush. It's just, in Hearthstone, right now, you open up a new pack, you get a new card, and it feels like there's welling potential. There's that excitement and enthusiasm of how do I use this? And granted, it mostly happens in the rare slot or the epic slot or even the legendary slot. There are a few underwhelming legendaries. Well, the majority of the legendaries are underwhelming in the long run, but each one feels a little bit interesting, or changes play, or pushes you into a direction of exploration. Even if it's not good, it's usually exciting or entertaining or even niche usage. I think that is the direction, because in Magic, there is that constant struggle with, I pulled a card, it's not in my color, it's not in my play type, or it's not good. And that's just something that is a continuous struggle. Not every card in Hearthstone is competitively viable, but almost all the cards in Hearthstone are interesting above the common slot. But even common slot cards can be interesting. In the classic set, you have Acolyte of Pain, which is maybe the best card in the classic set in the common slot because it's just really strong. And it opens up that interesting interaction because depending on what class you have, the Acolyte of Pain offers a different approach. If you're a priest, you can maybe draw a card and then heal it and then draw another card later. Or if you're mage, you can play it and then hit your own Acolyte of Pain with your hero power and draw a card and then later draw another card. So it's like an arcane intellect that you can pump more mana into, but you also get a minion. Or in Warrior, you can use Whirlwind-like effects or Death Spite, or currently we have Warpath. Warpath especially interactive because you can draw 3 cards off of your Acolyte and deal 3 damage to all the minions on the board. Or you're Dynamatic, hit your own Acolyte of Pain 3 times, draw 3 cards, 2 mana combo. That's pretty good. I think it's just that in Hearthstone you have cards that open up design space. And on the note of Hearthstone nostalgia, I have, in particular, just a fondness for Cult Master, because I got Cult Master and I got Unleash the Hounds, and that was my first combo. It was you play Cult Master, you're behind on board, you play Unleash the Hounds, you get a lot of hounds, you ran your hounds into your opponent's minions. This was back when Hunter's Mark was 0 mana, so you could also play Hunter's Mark and get some value trade. But it was great. It was card draw, really efficient play. It was swingy in the good way, where it doesn't feel like you are taking too much control of the game. Just really good interaction. I think Magic misses out on that boat in a lot of ways, that there just isn't the openness of design space. It might just be that the competitive lens is hard to take off of players. When you see that there are cards that are designed to work together, it's hard to not include them, and you get a jumbled mess of different design elements together to try to make a coherent whole. And what's the point of being creative when the pre-constructed things are already better? It might take some time. There is homebrew. Homebrew is great, especially when you're doing something like 5-color fun stuff in Magic, which will probably be featured eventually. It's just a little bit hard to pull together. You have that fundamental consistency problem of drawing lands, and the more fun your deck is, the less competitive it is a lot of times, because you need more colors, more mana, or you need to shell out for better cards. There are strictly better cards in Magic, and that is a huge weakness. Just that there is the ability for you to spend more and just have a better deck. I don't know how to remedy that, but that's one of the things that makes me really turned off to Magic. I know that standard is to try to solve the problem, that you cycle through and you can print better and worse versions of cards over time and base it around that. But it doesn't serve the larger goal of making a game that lasts when you print in standard and then after rotation it never sees any play again. It's okay. There might be some Magic nostalgia content eventually, but the current trajectory and design space of the game is really making me grapple with the structure and monetization, and it's not nostalgia. It's mostly frustration, but there is still excitement. There is still good elements. Maybe a nostalgia month. In a few years. And now another word from our sponsors. Sponsor this week is Nutrient Z Energy Drink. All the energy you need with the additional flavor of the souls of the condemned. You can taste the anguish. Dr. Marlowe Faust agrees. Nutrient Z is unparalleled for its flavor and energy. Nutrient Z Energy is bottled by Hades Bottling Incorporated, a subsidiary of PepsiCo.